Last night I began reading about the fall of communism. The more I read, the less I believed it fell because it didn't make sense or didn't work. It was something simpler. It seems the most logical reason communism failed was because of greed. I'd say rock and roll being broadcast on Radio Free Europe had as much to do with the Berlin Wall coming down as Ronald Reagan demanding it so. Societies where all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs could never work because it's contrary to our nature. We're not really selfless by nature. Like other animals, we all want the lion's share. We want a little more for ourselves and for our families. We're generous when we can afford to be, when there is abundance. Civilization and the laws of the jungle are only a few meals apart. Benevolence is a characteristic society aspires to. I looked communism up in the dictionary. The origin for communism is common, which is a word filled with goodness. Common meant shared by, done by more than one, belonging to, open to, or affecting the whole community. Common land, the common good, a common ground or a point of view or an argument accepted by both sides. The common touch, the ability to get along with or appeal to ordinary people. According to the Bible, Jesus and his followers chose to own nothing and shared their belongings. There were no needy people among them. Those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales and put it at the apostles' feet. And it was distributed to anyone who had need. By this definition, Jesus and his followers were communists. There's no question he was a revolutionary, but not with violence. His revolution involved a complete and dramatic change in the way people thought. Progressive and liberal thought in a time of oppressive empire. He was a man who, with no army and no weapons, led a group of young people toward a new, more humane way of thinking, toward a philosophy of love and forgiveness. Before you start screaming and thinking this is an attack on any particular religion, faith, ism, or a comparison to Joseph Stalin, Kim Jong-il, Chairman Mao, or even Fidel Castro, it's not. Those guys corrupted the simplicity of communism. When I propose that Jesus was a communist, I mean that he may have been a supporter of a political ideology that advanced an egalitarian society based on common ownership of property. By doing so, he was breaking away from the laws of Moses while establishing a higher moral road, a new paradigm of living for his followers. The stories in the Old Testament are filled with killing and disputes of ownership of land. Based on the words and concepts Jesus is said to have taught, it explains his disinterest in owning things. Choosing to kill another person in the name of God or possessions made no spiritual sense. When you give a banquet, the Bible tells us, we should invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Well, ask yourself, would you? The Brazilian Archbishop Dom Helder Camara lamented the situation with these words: when I give food to the poor, they call me a saint. When I ask why the poor have no food, they call me a communist. How would magazines and television news react to a young, bearded man in robes who spoke of mercy and rejected violence with words like, love your enemies and do good to them? We know that violence begets violence. You throwing a rock and me throwing one back is one thing. But in a time of chemical and atomic warfare, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, could mean the end of life as we know it. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., probably inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, amended the Old Testament's an eye for an eye, and added, leaves everyone blind. This was wisdom for a new age, provided at a time of racial violence and nuclear proliferation. Many people finally agreed that killing a person because of their skin color and the idea of nuclear retaliation was a surefire means of leaving everyone blind. If we were to actually say, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," each time before we turn on a television set or pick up a gossip magazine, our experience would be quite different. Instead of gasping and finding shame, instead of mentally throwing stones at others' mistakes, we might find empathy or even forgiveness. The sentence, "He that is without sin cast the first stone," has the potential, if practiced, to change the course of human history. The story about the casting of stones is from the Bible. It goes something like this. There was a woman accused of adultery. The law of Moses commanded that the woman be stoned to death. Jesus didn't like the idea of killing the woman at all. So he broke Moses' commandment, saying to his followers that he did not condemn the woman. He went to her and told her to go and to sin no more. If we could just remember this, we might be kinder and forgive others for the mistakes and missteps we ourselves all too often make. There's another story in which Jesus is supposed to have gone into a temple and flipped over the tables of the merchants or money changers, then chased them out of the temple because they turned it into a den of thieves. Imagine if he were around today. Would he go down to Wall Street and flip tables over in the offices of all the stockbrokers and bank executives who created bad loans and Ponzi schemes? Would he denounce the money changers that schemed and traded away thousands of people's life savings and created a global economic disaster? Our goal in life should be to live with our eyes open to new ways of seeing and to new ways of thinking, conscious of our thoughts and actions and how they could affect others positively or negatively. To recognize that there is a great force or power or thing that exists outside human comprehension, and that whatever that thing is has not the slightest influence over human behavior, human justice, human wars, human pleasure, or whatever human ambitions we pursue. To understand truly that when we choose to throw stones at another human being, we are not doing it because a God has instructed us to do so. When we throw stones, it is our pitiful selves, our egos, that act alone. When we attack another, it is simply to make ourselves appear superior. The next devolving step is returning the insult, only louder, which leads to an even lower consciousness and physical violence. An eye for an eye, leaving the combatants blind to peaceful resolution. When we look up at the night sky, we know that there is no known limit to the number of universes. We happen to inhabit one. Other universes, other planets that sustain life, may be forever inaccessible to us. So why would we choose to struggle, kill, or do battle with one another when there is only this one world to share? We may never know what created the cosmos or how those laws apply to our world. The answers may forever lie beyond the limits of human comprehension. The laws of the universe have become the laws of the multiverse, where the laws of gravity and quantum theory allow new universes to appear spontaneously from nothing. Beyond the limit of human understanding, beyond our understanding of the laws of physical science, we enter the realm of human morality. It is in this realm that we meet people who walk the earth and question, challenge, and sometimes attack the conditions of the world they live. I don't believe that a God helps us to kick a soccer ball well, or hit a home run, or make a touchdown, or even to get into Carnegie Hall. I do believe that when rare people come along and show humanity a new path toward peace, love, and understanding, they are too often punished, shot, murdered, and even crucified. People should not be divided into groups, believers and atheists, capitalists and communists, Democrats and Republicans, but between the haves and the have-nots, between those people who want to keep and protect an unfair, unbalanced society, and those people who are willing to struggle for freedom and equality. In all our progress, we have created an enormous wake of human and environmental destruction. Unlike the pyramids, little of what we have made will last more than a few hundred years. We have reached a turning point in our brief history. We shouldn't expect a savior to arrive in the nick of time to rescue us from generations of mistakes. It is up to each of us. We need dreamers for dreams to come true. It's time to break away from old rules and abandon superstitions. Relinquish doctrines that subjugate the human mind and its desires. Let's do away with institutions that alienate and annihilate reason. It's time for new fantasies that sting the flesh and awaken the senses. Let's turn the tables over. Let's write new rules, new parables that will one day be broken. Communist is just a word, really. Jesus had common sense, good sense, and sound judgment in practical matters. You do that as well as he did, and you divide time.